Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. Welcome back to The Business Behind Your Business. Look, we live in a digital world. It's overflowing with noise, content, disruption, distraction. So how do you stand out? It's a question we're often asked. How do you stand out as a business owner, especially in industries like healthcare where it is hard to stand out? How do you make yourself known against your competition and known in the environment that you're working in? Well, our guest today believes that the answer is in niche marketing. And if you've ever worried that narrowing your focus is going to limit your reach, we're going to flip that idea and we're going to help you understand why it is so important. In fact, quoting our guest, we're going to say that niche marketing isn't limiting, it's liberating. It helps you speak directly to the people who need you most. So who is our guest today? Well, our guest today is Jennifer Christensen. She's a co-founder and chief marketing officer of Beacon Media and Marketing, which is a nationally recognized digital agency helping purpose-driven brands grow with clarity and measurable results. Jennifer's got over 13 years experience, has helped scale dozens of mental health practices into multi-location success stories, passionate about ethical AI use and data-driven strategy. We've seen a lot of non-ethical AI usage recently, and passionate about marketing that fuels sustainable growth. Very important. So particularly Jennifer's focus is on industries like transforming lives like wellness and health and recovery. And look, we're delighted to have Jennifer with us, particularly coming to us from such a position of experience and authority. Beacon Media is on the Inc. 5000 list, has been on the Inc. 5000 list 2 years in a row. So we're quite privileged today to have Jennifer coming to help us understand what niche marketing is. So Jennifer, welcome to The Business Behind Your Business.
Oh, thank you so much. This is definitely one of my favorite topics. So I'm really grateful to be on and share what I can.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Well, I'm looking forward to it particularly, and I know our listeners are, because marketing is such an essential aspect of what we do as a business owner. And often we don't have the skills ourselves, and there's so much noise out there, and we're often trapped into following the latest trend, the latest shiny object, and we're getting some of the core foundations wrong. And look, let's just start with the basics here. What is niche marketing?
So niche marketing is when you think of it like setting yourself up for the perfect date. You're not just presenting yourself in the best possible way, but you are also looking for somebody that really is a good match for you. So niche marketing is basically knowing who you are. You have to have self-awareness for your business of like who you really want to serve, who you serve well. If you're just starting out, you might have to figure that out. You might have to test that out a bit to see who really resonates. And then it's the ability to know that and then be able to message and specifically connect with those, I believe, that are already searching for what you do. So it's that perfect, smooth connection. I call it converting conversations. Obviously that takes place online, but when you think about conversations that convert, meaning they then turn into a sale or turn into a relationship or a client, these are conversations that resonate. Why do they resonate? Because you're talking specifically to that person. They feel like they're seen. They feel like you understand them. And when you can do that, when you can really niche down your messaging and your communication that way, it is incredibly successful.
Because one of the frustrations I hear is that my marketing is just not successful. I'm not getting conversions. I'm not getting a good return on my investment. And I think what we're hearing is that a lot of that, I guess, marketing spend is going into target audiences, which are not the right one. You talked about having the perfect date. I think the way a lot of business owners approach marketing is we'll spend and just hope that we can pick someone up on the way. And not really care about the result.
I do think it's an industry problem. I don't think it's a business owner problem. There's a very low barrier to entry and to get into marketing. And I think that's really hurt the industry tremendously. So there's just been so much false information out there. And you'll see the latest shiny object of like, do this one thing and make $1 million or whatever, all these things that as business owners, we know it really doesn't work. I mean, another great analogy is that when we think about health or dieting, most of us know that we do the basic foundational things well and we're going to get results. But of course, we're always tempted by those, lose 20 pounds in 20 days things, right? So it's just realizing this is something you actually have to be thoughtful about, strategic about, put effort into. But once you really find your people, if you think about it that way, it's great. So like for a health practice, like you said, you actually talked about this in the beginning, and that is that there's so much noise, there's so much distraction. How do you stand out in that? So if you think about that, why is there all this distraction noise, all these things going on? Basically, everybody's getting bombarded with this, so they don't know who to trust. And trust has become absolutely scarce. And when something is scarce, it's very, very valuable. So if you can think about your marketing, not from like, how do I just like get everything out there and just meet all these people, but how can I establish a deep level of trust from the people that I want to be my potential clients or want to be, connected with me? Once you figure that out, and I can share some techniques to do that, but once you figure that out, you are so far ahead of most of your competitors because they aren't thinking about it that way. But that's what people care about. Who can I trust? Who should I actually talk to? Who's going to do what they say they're going to do? Who actually sees me, understands me, all of that.
And what you've just described there about that developing trust and understanding and identification with, I guess, your target customer, your target client, is very different to a lot of the tactics that are out there, which are very much I call it the watermelon theory. You just drop a watermelon from a great height and hope you cover enough and you'll pick up the right one as you go. But trust is a lot more targeted, a lot more specific, but also you mentioned that understanding of who your customer is and what message they need to hear.
Yeah, I think so many businesses would be just phenomenally far ahead if they just, instead of like spending thousands of dollars on marketing, and I'm in marketing, but I tell people this all the time, call your top 10 clients or call people that you're already working with or talk to them and ask them, what made you come in to see me? What is your experience like? What is it that I'm helping you do? Why do you choose to stay with me? Just talk to people, ask them these questions. That's going to get you so much further in understanding how you can get more people like that. And, if you're just starting out in business, one of the best recommendations I have is to find people, in the industry or related industry to what you want to do and ask them for 15 minutes of their time for $50. So if you're going into some sort of service industry, like let's say you're serving, small business owners. So your $50 that you spend for 15 minutes with 10 or 15 small business owners to really find out what their pain points are is money that is way better spent than trying to do some sort of Facebook ad campaign when you have no idea what they care about.
Yeah, I think we were mentioning this before we started recording, but in Australia, there are so many complaints. I think 80% of complaints to the Small Business Commissioner are about marketing and advertising where things have just gone badly. And you mentioned that there's also a lot of complaints in the US about marketing, I guess, tactics or lack of results. And I think if we're following just the shiny object, that technique that somebody else is promoting, well, we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean they're like, I love excellent tactics. Like I'm not against tactics at all. I'm a huge believer I spend a lot of money and time working on like UX tactics for the website. I spend a lot of money and time developing the best ads, really like we want to have the best thing that we can out there, but the tactics all have to be based on trust and they have to be based on strategy. And especially if you're talking anything in health, like you said, you have some clients in that. I mean, this is a very personal thing, right? This isn't like going and buying a shoe or something off the street. This is a connection to a person. So some of the ways you can even establish that is that even things like how fast your website loads. Can they find the information they're looking for? Do you have cost or price on your website? Do you talk about how fast it is to get in to see their service? Does somebody get back to them right away? Is there good communication? All of those things, those are tactics, right? There's ways to do those and to really do a good job with that. And if you do that, your costs go down tremendously. The average website in Australia and America converts at about 2%. If you do some of the techniques I'm talking about, your website will usually convert closer to 4 to 5%. So for every dollar that you're spending to get people there, you're getting a customer 2 to 3 times as much.
Hmm.
I hope that makes, yeah.
Oh, that makes great sense. So I think what you did, a couple of key things you mentioned there is that fixing all of those things like your website speed, pricing, answering the questions that the potential customer client has,
Right.
they're all essential things. But a lot of that is before you actually go and, I guess, create a campaign.
Right.
And if you create a campaign, but you haven't answered those, I guess, key essentials, you're sort of just throwing money away, because when they come to your website, the answers aren't there. It takes too long to load. I don't have the patience. But a lot of us just think, oh, we've got to spend money on Google, we've got to spend money on Facebook, not those core things that you've just mentioned. And I just picked up on the fact that you were talking about websites convert on average 2%, but increasing it to 4%. We recently had talking about e-commerce on one of our earlier episodes. And one of the things he mentioned was, when you increase your conversion rate because of what's on your website, you're reducing your marketing costs per new customer. So health and wellness, very difficult markets in one sense, because and I know particularly in Australia there are a lot more restrictions about what you are allowed to do with marketing. So you've made that your niche. That's what you specialize in. Obviously you've come up, you're doing this really well, because you've got quite an established business. You're receiving awards for it. You're growing. There must be some key tactics or key understandings that we need to know on how to position our marketing in such, I guess, restrictive ways that we're allowed to operate.
Yeah, and I mean, forgive me, I don't know the rules in Australia for this. I know in America it is very restricted concerning HIPAA. You can't use, which of course, you shouldn't be able to use data from your clients in this industry. So we are restricted. We're not able to use those targeting techniques that you can for many, many other industries. But we have found great success actually making healthcare approachable. Healthcare is very frustrating for most people. Insurance is very frustrating for most people. And what we saw coming into the industry is that the entire marketing or the entire communication and image of all of the digital marketing that was online for whether it's addiction recovery, mental health, women's health, men's health, many of them were hard to even make an appointment, hard to even connect with somebody, hard to know who you're going to be seeing. And is this a person that you would want to have that personal connection with? So my entire theory around marketing in this area is about removing barriers. So as long as something is legal and it is within those guidelines, I am always trying to remove every single barrier to entry. So, to not have the information on your website about what insurance you take, to not have the availability of when appointments are available, to not have, explaining what the process is or what somebody can expect when they walk in your door for their first appointment. These are all things that in the old school marketing, you never told anybody these things. You just expected them to call. But we know today nobody wants to call. So, I mean, you're just doing yourself such a disservice. And all those things just seem kind of basic, but because most people aren't doing them, when you really do them well, I was just looking at numbers today. We have one client, she's like 538% up from when she started. We are not doing anything fancy. We are just doing all of those small techniques and doing them well and being consistent. So, I mean, I do think we did a beautiful job with like the design and all of that, and that, that can definitely help. But you can have a great design and an inaccessible digital experience and people get frustrated and leave.
So The key thing that I heard there was you're removing the barriers. So you're making each step of the process easier for the customer. So easier to actually identify who to get in touch with, where to go, how to make a booking, what's going to happen. Can I use my insurance here? Yeah, just making it easier for that customer. So it is about that customer experience, because a lot of business owners will put on their website, it's all about them.
That's right. Yeah, you're so spot on. And I think that I have a different approach because I came from a business ownership, entrepreneurship, and sales background. And so I used to get really frustrated with marketing. And I'm like, why aren't they, they're not making my job any easier, right? When they're not telling the information ahead of time. And now all of that is separate because nobody wants to talk to somebody in sales anymore. So basically, what you need to do is not just have all the basics that I just talked about, but you need to have every objection that a potential client would have. You need to list all of those out under your frequently asked questions. You need to have that on your social media. You need to talk about that. Hey, these are things that people you might be wondering about. We've had these questions before. Let us answer them for you. Like, this is just good communication and connecting with people. And that's what makes converting conversations.
So converting the conversation, actually being available for the conversation and speak. I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest speaking in language that your customer is going to understand.
Exactly. Yeah, we have had this issue quite a bit. Many of our clients are, extremely well educated, PhDs. They went to school for many, many years to get these degrees, and I highly respect that, of course. So the languaging that they're using is not necessarily approachable to the people that are searching. So for example, I'm not sure if EMDR is popular in Australia, but it's a very popular mental health technique in the United States. And when it first came out, it was, kind of this, not a lot of people knew about it, but there was a fair amount of people we were working with that were trained in this specific technique. And they just kind of assumed that people would be searching for that. So I can see on the back end what people are searching for online. We have those tools where we can see, people are searching this volume or this keyword. And so I was able to show them, hey, nobody is searching for that. They have no idea what that is. So the only way you're going to be able to really connect with your ideal client is you have to explain how you're serving what they're struggling with, whether it's anxiety or PTSD or all those things. And that's what worked for that. So it's understanding, like, meet people where they're at. Don't try to don't expect them to understand the details of what you do.
So they're all very powerful. I guess I'm almost tempted not to call them techniques, but really foundational actions which help, I guess, focus your attention on the questions your customer are asking and their needs, which means you're going to be more specific about the messaging as well. Is that correct?
It is. And I know people get scared about this. I mean, you and I were talking about this right before. They get scared. Oh my gosh, I'm going to narrow myself down. And then, I'm only going to reach this client. And so that I'm not going to be able to reach, other people. And what if that market's too small? So one thing that we do is, again, I can see the search volume, on the back end. So if a client comes to us, I'll say, okay, well, I know you're worried about this, but hey, a lot of people are searching for this specific thing, right? So I think you've got a big enough market that you could really niche down here. Or let's create maybe like 4 or 5 different landing pages targeted specifically to those niches. If you're too concerned about going too small of a market, you're not sure. You can test it, you can find out. But nobody believes you when you say that you're going to serve everybody. And I talked about the trust thing. Your trust is out the window. Like, do you believe me as a marketing company if I say I can market for anybody? I can market for, Coca-Cola, and I can market for a small business? That's not credible.
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation yesterday with a solicitor, one of our clients who's a solicitor, and we were talking about how every profession is seeming to having to specialize more and more in what you can and can't do. And often when I mention this to accountants and advisors in the US, they get a bit surprised because when I talk about there are 4 accountants on my floor and we've all got different areas that we focus on, and we're often referring work to each other because we can only specialize on so much. Because if we spread ourselves too thin, we're not going to do anything well. and we're not going to look after our clients. And then all of a sudden, all of our credibility has gone. There's no trust, like you were mentioning, that we've destroyed the trust by not being able to do our job properly.
Well, I have seen so many marketers do that. People open a digital agency and they're desperate kind of for that first client or those first few clients. So they'll take anybody. And, I trust me, I understand, like, we're all in, we need to make a living. I get it. But it just kind of sets up the whole thing for failure because, you're not going to establish that long term.
So you've given us a lot of really key points and things to, I guess, get right before we actually start down that marketing, I guess, what we call marketing, but really the whole journey is your marketing strategy. If we brought that all together, what would be some of the key steps that you would do? Like, where would you start if you're a business owner thinking, well, I need to address marketing because I'm not doing it? Where should I start? What's the first thing?
So it totally depends on where they are in their business. So I'll just give kind of a general answer to start, because if you're a startup versus a couple of years in, all of those things, if you want to DIY it, I would absolutely suggest the paid version of ChatGPT or Claude and really just brainstorm with the AI a little bit on strategy. And what I mean by that is, literally, first of all, get the paid version, not the free version, so that your information is safe. But really to brainstorm a little bit of hey, this is the business I'm in, or this is the service I'm in. I think these are my ideal clients. I want to do some research to see what my competitors are doing. What might be the niches I could look to go into. So some AI information could be really helpful. And then I would just really talk to people. I mean, almost nobody does this. So if you're unsure, right, where you need to start or what you need to be doing. So if you have a team, talk to your staff. Hey, who are our best customers? Who loves us? Who do we love, connecting with and doing business with? Pay them a little bit of money, make a phone call, give them a gift certificate to give you some information. I mean, everybody's busy, but people do love to be asked about what they care about in general, right? So I've rarely ever had to pay for that if I just make a phone call. Hey, I really care about what you think. That's really step number one if you're not sure. If you know pretty much what you need to do and it's just not working, chances are you probably don't have the right marketing partner, or, maybe you don't have somebody who specializes in what you do. So find somebody in Australia that specializes in your particular industry and really make sure that you're asking them the right questions of, do you understand specifically how to target this niche and what I'm going for? So it's really it's almost like slowing down to speed up. If you do that, then it's going to be so much smoother sailing. You're going to waste so much less money. There's always going to be testing, so don't be discouraged by that. The algorithms through Meta, Facebook, and Google, and even the AI tools now, there's a period of testing to see what kind of results you get. But if you have a firm foundation to start with, that is going to be a much easier process than what I hear from a lot of people, which is that they get bad results.
Yeah. Look, you mentioned using some of the AI tools as a bit of I guess, a self-help way of getting started with marketing. Now, right at the beginning, I mentioned that you are a big fan of ethical use of AI in marketing. Can you just explain the difference between ethical use of AI and some pretty bad examples of using AI for marketing that I've seen?
Yeah, there's some terrible stuff out there, isn't there? Right. Well, I mean, this is my personal belief, and this is our company values for how we handle AI. So I don't believe you should ever put out a photo or even a post or definitely not a video that is AI generated without letting people know that's what it is. I mean, the rules and the regulations have not caught up yet to the technology, and I don't know that they ever will. I think we're so far past the bag on this. I've been working in AI for 4 years, so even before ChatGPT came out, I definitely saw this was coming. I didn't see it was coming quite this intensely fast, but I did see that it was coming. And AI is a wonderful tool if you're using it to do something you're already doing well. So, like for me, it's become like a great assistant for me to brainstorm ideas, research, test theories, test hypotheses. All those things are great. I wouldn't even think of using it for like what you do, because how would I even know if the information I was getting was right? I don't know CPA type work. I don't know accounting at that level. And for me to trust something that I don't even necessarily know the right questions to ask, wouldn't even consider it. But for marketing, there's AI tools that help us edit videos faster. They help us, cut things. Like I said, they help us brainstorm strategy and do market research. Those things are incredible. I mean, I'm able to do almost probably 3 times what I was able to do a year ago in the same amount of time. It's incredible.
So you're using AI to leverage your own skills and your experience. You're
Right.
using it as a tool to help you do things more efficiently. You're not using it as a tool to replace using your skill, though.
No, I think it's only enhanced it. And we made a decision as a company, a lot of marketing agencies have either gone out of business or they have decided to go all AI. And boy, can you tell. We made a decision as a company that we were not going to lay anybody off. And we talked to our staff at the beginning of the year and said, hey, or I think it was last year actually. And we said, hey, this is what's happening. This is the future. There's only 2 ways we can go with this. We can either develop better, faster, higher quality results for our clients and not charge anymore. So like, double, triple the value for the same money. Or we can go AI all, pretty much focus, lower our prices and go that direction. That would mean cutting staff. So we decided to go high quality and then train our whole staff on basically being able to do, 2 to 3 times the value of what they were getting before. And I love that because kind of everybody wins.
Yeah, so that's a great way to look at it, I think, and it goes back to what we were talking about right at the beginning, talking about understanding the niche and the core customer that you're dealing with, but also how you create trust, because there's still a lot of distrust about use of AI and the way that you've described how you use it. It's coming from that, I guess that position of understanding and caring for the customer and their needs. And you're using it to supplement your skills and knowledge for them. And I think that's a great outcome. And look, I'm going to say that if you are in the health and wellness industry and you need some help with your marketing, if you're not in the health and wellness industry, use the conversation we've had to really bolster your marketing. But if you're in the health and wellness and you need help, reach out to Jennifer at Beacon Media and Marketing, because she'll only deal with people in the health and wellness industry.
Exactly. Yeah, and I always do. I love helping people, especially if they're just learning about AI or they're stuck at a point. I do 15-minute free consults on LinkedIn. I do like 4 or 5 a week. I love it. It like fills my tank. I've been doing this a long time. And so just to help answer a question or give back like that, it's super fun for me. So definitely reach out on LinkedIn if you guys want any help with that. But I've loved this conversation. We went over some good stuff.
We certainly did. And I'm pretty pumped. You mentioned it fills your tank helping people. I love having these conversations because not only do I learn a lot, but I know that our audience listening to this are learning a lot, and it's some really practical tips to help them with their business. But I guess the other thing that we always like to say is that it's shown you the knowledge, but if you really want to do this well, grab the expert to help you maximize your output. So get in touch with the right person to help you along your journey. And a great example of that today, niche marketing. So Jennifer really narrowed down on her niche, and it's been really successful and prosperous, and looking after her clients. They've been growing, some phenomenal growth. So the answer is there. You're not losing by drilling down on your niche. You're actually being more focused, developing better relationships, better trust, and better outcomes. And that's a great incentive for why to do it. But we've also got some really practical tips on how to apply that in our businesses from Jennifer. And we're really grateful to you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. It was a great conversation.
Not a problem. It's been a pleasure. And look, if you want to find out more, we'll be putting the links to Beacon Media and Marketing in the show notes and also on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website. And of course, check out Jennifer on LinkedIn as well. And just follow some of the amazing content that she's providing. And again, Jennifer, thank you for joining us and for sharing your knowledge and expertise with our audience.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favourite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.